Welcome to the Blooming League of Original Podcasts.
Hello and welcome to Talk Musicals to Me, a new theatre podcast about musicals and their impact on people. My name is Caroline Sheen and I'm here to quiz some of the leading creatives in the entertainment industry about their relationship with musical theatre and how certain musicals may have influenced their lives in ways you may not even expect. From how they first encountered a musical to musicals they may never even have seen, let's dive in and introduce today's guest to open up and talk musicals to me. Today we have a very special guest for me because when I started this podcast a few months ago, most of the shows that this person has been involved with have been answers to the questions on the podcast. I don't think there's been many podcasts where one of your shows hasn't been mentioned. And quite honestly, one of my most foremost memories of going to the theatre with my mum was to see Crazy for You at the Prince Edward Theatre, I think probably in 93, 94, I think. And we had to sit separately because there were no tickets together and we'd arranged to meet in the interval. I found a spot to meet my mum and I was standing there trying to stop myself from crying. Not because I was sad or lost or worried, but because I was so overwhelmed by what I had just seen on the stage. And my mum isn't a crier, so I was standing there thinking, oh, pull yourself together, Karen, because when your mum comes in, she's going to think you're daft for crying so much. And when my mum turned up, she'd been crying as well.
Oh.
So that was a really special moment that we'd both had separately in that theatre.
That's wonderful.
And so I'm so proud to welcome the wonderful choreographer, director extraordinaire, Susan Stroman, to talk musicals to me today. Hello, Susan.
Hello, I am very, very happy to be here. I love the opening story.
Oh, thank you.
It was excellent. I loved about you and your mom crying. Wonderful.
It was really special. It was so special. And then I actually ended up in a very small production of Crazy for You, where, do you know the Watermill Theatre in the UK where they do the actor-musician shows?
Yes.
I did the actor-musician version of Crazy for You in the teeny tiny Watermill Theatre, and it's just an absolute joy of a show.
It makes people happy. You can see the audience put their arms around one another, and
Yeah.
I know it makes a lot of people happy.
So happy they cry. So, Susan, with my podcast, I ask everybody the same 10 questions about the musicals that have influenced their lives, not just the musicals you've been influential with, but the other musicals that have shaped your life. So can we jump in and start questioning?
Yes, absolutely.
Lovely. Thank you so much. So my first question is, when did you and musical theatre first meet and what did you meet? What was the first musical you ever saw, basically?
Well, that's interesting because when I grew up, my father was a wonderful piano player, so there was music in the house all the time. And I grew up in Delaware. Both parents loved it when a musical movie would come on television and everything would stop and we'd all sit on the sofa and watch this musical movie. So I think that's how I started, by seeing how people would sing in a musical, even the old Ginger Rogers, Fred Astaire movies. So my love for storytelling through music happened at a very early age. I was that little girl who would dance around the living room to her father playing the piano and creating stories and creating dance. But I started to work in community theater in Delaware and the Philadelphia area. But my very first professional show to see when I came to New York was Pippin.
Oh, wow.
And it really had an impact on me because I had never seen anything like it. I don't know that I totally understood it.
Yeah.
But I thought it was fantastic. And I loved the movement. Of course, it was Bob Fosse. And I loved the music. So it really stuck with me as being something very unique and something very different from watching Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers movies on television.
Yeah.
So it had a very unique quality to it, and I'll never forget it.
Oh, that's wonderful. I don't think we've had Pippin as an answer for anything before, so that's fantastic. It's a very conceptualized piece, isn't it? And
Yes.
I have seen, like, if you go on YouTube, you can see some like really old stock footage of like the original cast of Pippin, and like these incredible dancers doing choreography that I don't think had ever really been seen before.
No, it was quite wonderful.
And is that something you were interested at the time, Susan? Were you watching the choreography as somebody who wanted to be a choreographer?
Oh, yes. I've wanted to be a choreographer since I was very little. And watching that and seeing the different movements that would happen that would support the lyric and have the essence of sensuality and just be part of the story, reinforcing whatever story they were telling. I loved every minute of it.
Oh, that's wonderful. And I think, like you were saying about the Astaire and Rogers movies, those are a big part of my life as well. Mainly because when I was younger, I was a huge Torval and Dean fan.
Ah.
And they used to talk about being influenced by Astaire and Rogers. And then if there was ever a movie that was black and white on television, I'd ask my mum if it was them. And so finally I got to watch them and their movement and the rules that Fred Astaire had. And I think, was it Hermes Pan, I think was his choreographer.
Yes.
And he always had to be in full shot, head to toe, and you got to see the whole. It was a theatrical experience, really, wasn't it? Because you saw the whole dance
Yes.
in front of you rather than just bits of it, or arms or heads or feet. You saw the whole thing.
I was able to recognize at a very early age the music and the choreography going together. So I know that Hermes Pan and Fred Astaire had a great collaboration with the arrangers. And, when Fred would leap in the air, so would the orchestra. So, or he would be doing a particular dance step that would be more right on an oboe or more right on a flute. And I was able to recognize that at a very young age. So to this day, part of what I do when I choreograph is work very closely with the arrangers. So my choreography is totally supported by the orchestra and it matches. So when my dancers leap in the air, so does the entire orchestra.
And is that the same for when you work on revivals? Are you limited to having to do the dance arrangement that the previous or the original dance arrangement was? Or are you able to kind of mix that up?
Yes, I am not, because I wouldn't take the job unless I could do my own choreography.
Right.
Because when Trevor Nunn asked me about doing Oklahoma at the Royal National Theater, the only reason I would do it, not only to work with Trevor, but it was I would have had to have changed the dance arrangements to match my dream ballet, to match all my choreography. And so we had to get permission from the Rodgers and Hammerstein estate to do that. And I had a wonderful dance arranger named David Crane on that. He was fantastic. So my choreography and that arrangement match.
And to do that, have you had to study music a lot as well as dance?
When I was young, I took dance lessons, but I also took piano lessons and guitar lessons. I took every kind of lesson I could take.
And you grew up with music in your house as well?
Yes, absolutely. But for example, like in Crazy for You, the song Shall We Dance? If I want Bobby and Polly to be coy and shy with each other, I'll play that melody in a soft shoe rhythm. If I want them to chase each other, I'll play that melody in a fast two. If I want them to fall in love, I'll play that melody in 3/4 time. So the manipulation of the time signature helps the emotion to the audience. So then at the end of Shall We Dance, they've fallen in love because of that. And Ken Ludwig doesn't have to write, and then they fell in love.
Yeah, the shape of that whole story.
Yeah.
Well, that was one of my favorite bits to do. That's where I felt like Ginger Rogers. I was very, very happy in that number. So what then, this is my second question. What was the first musical you ever set foot in on stage? What was the first musical you were personally involved with?
Well, professionally, it would be up at a place here called the Goodspeed Opera House in Connecticut. And it was where I got my equity card. And I came to New York and auditioned. And there were about 400 girls, and 2 girls got it, and I was one of the girls. So I had to tell my mother and father, I got something called an equity card, and I'm going up to Goodspeed Opera House in Connecticut. But it was a show called Hit the Deck, and it was an old-fashioned show, a lot of tap dancing. Yeah, that was it. That was my entrance into the professional theater.
And what was that show? Was it a sort of review piece, or was it something new? Or
No, it's a story. It's based on an old movie, Vincent Newman music, an old movie that I think think had Ann Miller in it, but had a lot of dancing in it. And they were doing it. It was a big dance show, big tap show.
I love a tap show. There's something about a tap show. I think maybe it's because of like, Ginger Rogers and Fred Astaire and Ann Miller and everything. It just makes you buzz, doesn't it? When you see everybody on stage tapping away together. It's brilliant. And so in Hit the Deck, was that an exciting experience for you? Were you away from home for the first time? How was it for you?
Yes, I was away from home for the first time. And one of the guys sat down next to me and he said, "How long have you been in show business?" And I looked at my watch and said, 5 minutes. And so we've become friends. And to this day, we still meet for breakfast at a New York diner. And that's, many years later. But yeah, it was thrilling to work with professional actors and to feel that I could keep up with these professionals dance wise. And, it was a wonderful time for me.
It's quite reassuring, isn't it, when you turn up on your first day and you go, "Oh, it's okay. I can do this. Somebody's given me this job, but I can manage." That's a really lovely feeling.
Yes.
I have heard of the Goodspeed Opera House. Is that somewhere you've been back to, like with any shows?
Not with any shows, but certainly to see shows and to see fellow collaborators that do something up there. It's the place where the musical Annie was created.
Oh, wow.
So it's a wonderful, wonderful venue, beautiful theater.
Oh, fantastic. I do love Annie. I have a soft spot for Annie. I think any little girl who wanted to be in musical theatre, they do love Annie, I think, somewhere deep down.
Yes. In front of the theater, they have a beautiful sculpture of the dog, Sandy, the dog from Annie. They have a beautiful sculpture.
Oh, gorgeous. Oh, that's so lovely. You got to have a dog. I think a dog in a show, just even if it's a puppet dog, that's a cute thing. So my next question is, apart from the shows which you've been involved with, is there a show that you have seen the most? Which show have you been like a repeat attender to?
Probably Sweeney Todd is something I've seen many times and many variations of. And I was dancing in a show on Broadway called Whoopee, and it was a big tap show. But across the street was something called Sweeney Todd. And at that time, you could second act a show, which you can't do anymore.
Oh, wow.
But I would leave my show and I would go over there and second act Sweeney Todd and just stand in the back. And again, it was directed by Hal Prince, and I've never seen anything like it. And I just loved it so much. I loved the music. And so as the years went on, I would see everybody's version of Sweeney Todd, and I love them all. I think it's such a great musical.
There's been a lot of very different versions of Sweeney Todd, haven't there?
Yes.
There was one that started, well, there was a couple that started over here. There was the actor-musician one, which I think came over to New York that Patti LuPone did, where they all played instruments.
Yes.
And then another one with Jeremy Seacombe playing Sweeney Todd from here. And it came over because it had started in an actual pie shop.
Oh, yes. Yes, I remember that. Yeah.
Did you get to see that one?
Yes, fantastic. Yes.
Apparently that was quite an intense experience.
Yeah, because it's so close. It was so small.
Yeah. You all think you're going to end up in a pie at the end of it. It's a really popular show on this podcast. It is one that people talk about a lot. And I'm intrigued as to this second act thing. Was that your first experience of Sweeney Todd, just watching the second half?
Yeah, I ended up watching the whole thing, but people were talking about it. And in that day, you could do what we call second act a show. Now there's too much security and you can't do that. You haven't been able to do that since 9/11. But it was a thing that people would do. And they'd go and just stand in the back. You just second act and no one would say anything. So you would see a lot of shows like that.
So you'd literally just go, "Oh, that's the interval of a show.
Yeah.
I'll pop in and see the second half."
Yeah. You just go back in with the crowd when they go back in. Yes.
And either try and find an empty seat or just stand and watch.
Yes. Or stand in the back. Yeah, absolutely. Or go up to the balcony. Yeah.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe then that when I got the opportunity to work with Hal Prince, the man who did that, or Stephen Sondheim, and become good friends with Victor Garber. And, the show was so incredible to me at an early age. So then to be able to actually work with these masters, I feel quite fortunate.
Oh, it is amazing. Am I right in thinking you did the Prince of Broadway show?
Yes.
What did you do from Sweeney Todd in that? Was that it must have been featured.
The pie shop, have a little priest.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Was he reinventing it, or was it sort of a carbon copy of how it had been?
No, it wasn't a carbon copy, but he certainly had the same motivation, same directorial advice and suggestions, but it had new blocking in it because it was new actors, which you always do. You are inspired by actors as a director and you change things because of them.
Yeah. It's not something that's come over here, and I wish it had. We
Oh,
didn't get Prince of Broadway. I know you had our lovely Michael Xavier,
oh, yes.
who's one of our leading men over here, came over and did it.
Fantastic. Yes.
And I saw lots of footage of it when it was on and lots of sort of promotional stuff. And it looked really lovely, and so lovely that happened before we lost him.
Yes, I know. And I miss him. I think about Hal a lot.
He was such a huge influence on theatre, wasn't he?
Yes.
Is there one thing that you can say? I mean, obviously you would have been influenced by him a lot, but is there one thing you can say that you learnt from him that you take to other jobs?
Well, yes. I mean, well, for one thing, Hal said that when you open a show, the very next day, no matter what, if it's a flop or a hit, you start a new show. You meet with the new writers, you meet with the new composer, you set a meeting on the very next day to go on to the next. So you never stop. So you don't get caught up in if something was great, get caught up in it, or if something was criticized. You just keep going because this is what you do. You are a creator of the theater. So I've always done that. Now, whatever show opens the very next day, I have a meeting for the next show.
That's fantastic. I love that it feels quite a routine thing to do, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
But it's what other people do in other lines of work. They move on to the next job and the previous one is behind them. I think we can get caught up in the romanticism of musical theatre and the glitz and the glamour and the awards and the reviews and everything. So to have that as a rule to live by is incredibly important, I think.
Well, I think as creators too of the theater, it takes a long time for shows to get up. We work on shows for 3, 4, 5, sometimes 10 years. So you always have to be collaborating. This is my office here, and I have different writers in every week. I have probably 3 different types of writers here working on shows that hopefully will have a future.
I'm picturing you and John Weidman in there right now having a cup of tea and a good natter.
Ah, yes, I adore John Wyman.
What a special guy.
Yes, he's wonderful.
And you've collaborated so much with him.
He is a great collaborator. I adore him.
He's one of the best. He was one of my first people when I was doing this podcast. I was like, I have to get John on. And I was so thrilled he said yes, because he doesn't put himself out there to do things like this. And I was absolutely thrilled when he said yes. And it's a lovely episode. And if you haven't listened to it, listeners, go back. It's episode 3.
I will, definitely. I mean, Steve Sondheim thought he was a great collaborator as well. We both adored him so much. He's so great to work with.
Just the loveliest person, isn't he? I think, and I love the word collaborate. This is always something that's coming up in this podcast is collaboration. And it's never a one person mission, is it? It's about teamwork and collaborating and friendship, I guess, and understanding and compromise.
Well, yes. And there can be no egos in the room when you're collaborating, because what you're collaborating with writers, and then all of a sudden you're adding designers into that, and everybody has to be on the same page. And I've also learned there is no bad idea, because someone could throw what seems to be a rotten idea onto the table, but someone else could pick that up and turn it into gold. So you have to have a freedom to speak and let ideas flow and toss ideas out and not feel judged. The collaboration has to have a free feel to it, because someone could take something that didn't sound quite right and then start to run with it.
That's a great way to think of things, to try everything and see what happens. Like you say, even if you think it's bad, something might come of it. I'm going to remind my director of that tomorrow when I go into that. If I have a really bad idea, could we try it and see what happens?
Yes, there you go.
Who knows what could happen? So my next question is, which musical made you laugh the most and which musical made you cry the most? You'd be surprised to hear that this is where the producers comes up a lot in the podcast.
Well, I have to say it probably is the producers, my own show. A lot of shows I can't go watch all the times, but I could always go watch the producers because it would make the audience really laugh. And I'll never forget that phrase, roll them in the aisles. I actually saw somebody fall off of their side into the aisles, just laughing. They fell right out of their seat laughing. But I think that it was so funny. And Mel Brooks is a genius, of course. And how lucky am I to have Mel Brooks in my life, as one of the greats.
Who just turned 99 this week, right?
Just turned 99, I know. And he's got Spaceballs 2 coming out,
He's not stopping.
So he's 99, but doing commercials for Spaceball 2. He's incredible, a genius and funny all the time and unbelievably respectful to me. It was a great time in my life. And also with Young Frankenstein, so we had a long run together. And now we speak, of course, and email and all, but, really a long run with those two shows and that they played all over the world.
And how did that original production come about? Where was the kind of germ of that idea and the discussion, and then going to Mel Brooks saying, can we do a musical of your show? Is that how it happened? Or
no, it was Mel, actually. My late husband, Mike Ockert, and I, we had done a Christmas Carol here at Madison Square Gardens that ran for like 10 years. We were in rehearsal one day and we got a call saying that Mel Brooks wants to meet you about a possible project together. Because I had at that point choreographed Christmas Carol and Mike directed it. I choreographed Crazy for You, Mike had directed it. And Mel had seen both of those. And he thought that we might be right for producers, but we didn't know what it was about. And he was going to come over at 6:00 after rehearsal. We went home. So there's a knock out the door and I opened the door. And instead of Mel saying hello, he launched into full voice that song, that face, that fabulous face. And he passed me, went down the hallway singing full out that song, got all the way into the living room, jumped up on top of my sofa, looked down at me and said, hello, I'm Mel Brooks. And I thought, well, I don't know what this adventure is going to be, but whatever it is, it's going to be fantastic. And in fact, it was an amazing. So it started with that. And we started to work on it and collaborate on it. As sadly, Mike got ill with leukemia and passed away. And about, I don't know, I would say only about 4 months after that happened, Mel knocked on my door again. He came over with Tom Meehan, and I thought he was coming over just to talk about Mike. But, he said, I want you to direct and choreograph the producers. And I said, I don't know if I could. I was grieving so badly for Mike. And he said, look, you'll cry in the morning and you'll cry at night. And when you're with me all day, you'll laugh. You have to do this. And he was right. When he said that, I had to do it. And so we started working on it with me as director and choreographer. I had created Contact up at Lincoln Center and I had directed The Music Man on Broadway. So he knew that I was already directing, not just choreographing. The shows that he had seen that I had directed, he just thought that she could do this. So it was the most amazing adventure of all.
Oh, I'm so thrilled. It's the one people talk about the most in this question, like I said. And I think it's coming back to London, a different production, and it's had lovely reviews. And it's the journey of a show and the success of something. I know it's not why we do it. We do it because we love it. But when it does have this kind of thrilling success, that must mean something quite exciting for you.
Yes, we were out of town in Chicago and I knew people who love Mel Brooks movies were going to love it, but I didn't know it would hit as big as it hit. And on that opening, that first preview up there, it was as if the audience blew the roof off the theater. I never experienced anything like it. I thought, oh, this is big. This is big.
Yeah, this is going to be good. This is going to be good.
Yeah.
And so which musical then brings a tear to your eye? Which one makes you feel emotional the most?
Well, let's see. I get emotional in a lot of musicals. I'd have to say something that I created in Contact. It's the second story about an abused wife. And you think she's going to get out of the relationship at the end and she doesn't. And even though I know that, and even though I created that, it makes me cry every time I see it, even if someone else is doing it. It's that idea of dreaming for a better life, dreaming for love, dreaming of dancing equaling joy. And then at the end, you're stuck or you're trapped. And that kind of storytelling makes me cry.
Contact, I have to tell you, was where I went on my first date with my husband.
Oh, Well, that worked out. That's good.
And we're still together. It worked out. So, that's a happy story to come out of that.
Very happy story. Wonderful.
And, it's Gavin Lee and Helen Anker and Michael
Yes.
Praed. It was wonderful.
Oh, thank you.
And I think it was quite a good choice for a first date, I think.
Yes, I think so. I think so. And that story came out of The Girl in the Yellow Dress. I was at a nightclub here in New York about 1 a.m, and every good New Yorker was dressed in black.
Yeah.
Then around 1 a.m, this girl in a yellow dress walked in, and you couldn't help but notice her. She was very bold to wear a yellow dress in New York City at night at a club, but she would step forward when she would want to dance with somebody and then retreat back when she was done with them. And I couldn't stop looking at her, and I thought, well, this girl's going to change somebody's life tonight.
Yeah.
Some man's life is going to be changed because of this girl.
For good or bad.
I know.
Which way, but yeah.
And then she just disappeared in the dance club. I didn't see her again, but I couldn't stop thinking about her. And then about 2 weeks later, Andre Bishop from Lincoln Center asked me to come up to meet him. And I sat down and he said, if you have an idea, we will help you develop it, which is like music to my ears.
Yeah.
Usually someone's handing you an old script or something,
Yeah.
but the idea that this producer would help me develop something brand new. And I said, I think I have an idea. And I said, let me call my friend John Weidman and talk it through. And I said, let me get back to you in a couple weeks. So I called John and we started to work on an idea, and I took it back, and it ran over 3 years up at Lincoln Center here, which was amazing.
Did it win Best New Musical over here, or was it nominated for Best New Musical over here?
I think it was nominated, but it won Best Musical over here in New York. Yeah.
Some people go, oh, it's not a musical, there's no singing. But of course, there's music and there's dancing
Yes.
and there's storytelling. Was there ever a conversation about having songs in it?
At the beginning, yes. When we were just working on it, and there was talk about that. But there's something in the story of The Girl in the Yellow Dress. We see the lead character, that idea of your life passing before you when you're about to die. Your whole life passes before you. And it seemed more appropriate to Weidman and myself that if your life is passing before you, you're hearing music that not a new score. You're hearing music that has changed your life. And we all know songs, that when we hear them, we know exactly where we were. We were in the back of that car making out.
Yeah.
We were having a dinner at that restaurant. And that idea of music that made up his life, the tapestry of this man's life before he dies. And that is how the music came to be in Contact.
Fantastic. I love when you find the reasons for something,
Yes.
the absolute common sense that comes out of it. It's so sensible, and yet it turns into something so artistic and fabulous. That's wonderful. Thank you for sharing that.
Yes, even when he goes to try to hang himself, he's kicking off CDs off of the ottoman that are all the CDs for the music of the show.
Oh, wow.
So it's very much a part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic. I need to see it again now. Can you put it on again, please? The next question is my confession question, which is I have never seen a professional production of West Side Story. Is there a musical out there that you regret that you haven't seen yet, or that you wish you had seen when it was on?
I don't think so, because I've been around a long time now, so I think I've seen just about everything. But there are certainly performances. I wish I had seen Ethel Merman do Gypsy. There are certain performances that you wish, you could have seen when you hear people talk about it, what it was like.
I can tell you John Weidman saw Ethel Merman in Gypsy.
Oh, really?
He said that entrance with her sort of storming down the aisles to Baby June at the front, said she nearly knocked his hat off. She was so forceful.
Oh my gosh.
That's one of his stories. I think it was the first musical he'd been to see.
Oh my gosh.
And it might have even been in an out-of-town tryout. So it wasn't even a big Broadway hit then. But yeah, that would have been quite something, wouldn't it? Ethel Merman in Gypsy.
Yeah. So there are moments like that, or seeing Julie Andrews on stage. So I think about performers more than I think about missing a musical. But I would have loved to have seen, because now I feel like all the musicals have come back. We've seen them all.
Yeah, they've all been revived.
They've all been revived. Yeah.
Well, if you could revive Contact, that'd be great, because then I can see all the things you just talked about and I'll get them sorted.
All right.
I had Tom Schumacher on the show recently, and he was telling me how the offices in the New Amsterdam are pretty much where Gypsy was written and created.
Oh my gosh.
The ghosts in that building must be absolutely incredible. You know, where I think Sondheim sat down and they worked out with Julie Stein the shape of Rose's turn at the end.
I mean, it's absolutely perfect.
Is that a show you'd like to do? Did you ever want to do Gypsy, Susan?
No, not particularly, because I don't go after revivals. I was very lucky to do three of the biggest ones, and that was Showboat, The Music Man, and Oklahoma, the real classic American musicals. And I was able to do them in a great big way. And after that, I've decided never to accept a revival. And so I only wanted to create new work. So
After Oklahoma, that's everything, isn't it?
and that was it. Yeah. So I don't get to work as much as my colleagues, but I only want to do new work. And new work takes a long time.
It's a long, long time. Yeah.
It's much easier to do a revival, but I wanted to do new stuff, and that takes all my time.
And the Showboat, that was Hal Prince, right?
Yeah, it was big.
A Music Man you directed?
Yes. Yeah, that was with Craig Bierko that you mentioned.
Yeah.
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 Wonderful. He was fantastic.
And then Trevor Nunn with Oklahoma.
Yes.
My first experience of watching Oklahoma at the National, I actually went and watched the understudy run through because it was an invited dress rehearsal. I was like, wow, if this is the understudy run, imagine the real thing, because it was absolutely incredible and everybody was blown away. It was a wonderful performance. I think Sarah Ingram was doing Ado Annie, Helen Anker again from Contact was doing Laurie. And so then I finally saw it with the full cast at the Lyceum.
Yeah.
I think I saw it like 3 times. It just blew me away. I'm so thrilled it was filmed.
Yes.
There are lots of shows out there that we've missed because they haven't been documented. So I'm so thrilled that was filmed. So if you haven't seen it, listeners, get out there and watch it. Susan, thank you so much. Can we take a very quick break for a little advert and come back in 2 minutes?
Okay, very good. Perfect.
Thank you.
G'day listeners, another show you can find on the Bloop Network is Thrash and Treasure, where legendary artists from Broadway, West End, Hollywood and beyond deep dive into 2 seemingly opposite genres of music, heavy metal and musical theatre. From Tony winners to reality TV contestants, hear a vast range of iconic guests learn about genres of music they've never been exposed to. With over 130 episodes, there's bound to be a silly, sassy and insightful conversation that'll have you reaching for the leather pants and hairspray. And here is a sneak peek. We're back with Thrash and Treasure. I'm Aaron, and that's Mr. J-Wags, and we're having a true daily double with the amazing Margaret Cho. I am absolutely jumping with joy to have you join us, especially since you have been on the publicity train, something chronic lately, with your latest album, Lucky Gift.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Another great album of Californian jams with a chill yet sometimes humorous vibe. So are we going to get an Aussie tour in the near future, please?
I hope so.
Thanks.
You know, I would really love to. I haven't been in such a long time, and it's one of the places that I just absolutely love going, and I've had my best shows there. And, you know, I was supposed to go during the pandemic. That was like one of the tours that was supposed to happen that didn't happen. And then since then, it's just been really kind of crazy. But yeah, I'm definitely due.
Yeah, because you were the Grand Marshal of our famous gay and lesbian Mardi Gras parade.
Yes. It is very big. Like Mardi Gras is so huge in a global way. Like, so people are coming not just from Australia, but they're coming from all over the world.
Mhm.
A really special event. So yeah, I think of it more as a global event than I actually do an Australian event because it's so massive. I've never actually been to Melbourne Pride.
Oh, haven't you?
I haven't.
Oh, there you go. We've got Midsummer.
Yeah, which I need to do because Melbourne as a city is more gay
Mm-hmm.
than Sydney.
Mm-hmm.
Block for block, street for street.
Yes.
More gay, I believe.
I wholeheartedly agree.
I would just love to know the sociological website you get that information from. It's like, let me figure out exactly how gay New South Wales is as opposed to different parts.
Have you seen what I'm wearing?
Yeah, yes. But Melbourne is more like espresso martinis and lesbians, and
Okay.
Melbourne is like, to me, it's like Courtney Barnett. That's what I think of Melbourne, you know, it's that kind of vibe. Sydney is like very manicured men who are really like just with the really beautiful buff bodies and like on Bondi Beach and getting tan and getting lotion put on their bodies. That's to me, it's like a very athletic, it's very decadent. It's about physical beauty. It's about athleticism.
Yep.
Whereas Melbourne is more about art
Yes.
and caffeine
Yes.
and transgression
Mm-hmm.
and politics. That's just my outsider's view.
Yeah, no, that's spot on. You can't throw a rock in Melbourne without hitting a busker, basically. Well, you used to. You used to.
Mhm.
I don't know what it's like now because people.
Well, I'm delighted to be able to talk to you. First of all, been a huge fan for years. Also, I'm a NorCal boy
you.
myself from way
wonderful.
back, and I work currently at Second City as a music director, and so it's just
Cool.
I'm very fascinated with people who have who sort of span the line between music and comedy in this very specific way. There are a lot of similarities between like writing and touring in our original comedy, but also writing and touring an album must be a completely different yet similar sort of skill set and challenge. So what do you think the large difference is between crafting an hour of comedy, the similarities and differences between crafting that and then touring an album of your own original pop songs?
With the music, I'm still reliant on other musicians to bring it all to life. So, I play and sing, but I really prefer to bring along a band, so it becomes very expensive and it's very different. Whereas a comedian, like I can just go anywhere and I don't have to carry anything. I don't have to bring anything. There's no sound check. It's so easy to be a touring comedian. But whenever I've gone on tour with music, it's more of a production, which is great too, but it's just you have more things in place. I like both tremendously, but currently, like I'm just doing stand-up comedy on tour, and I've to sort of see like for this album, this past album, some of the production was a little bit higher, so I would need a bigger band if I went on tour. So that's something that I have in mind.
Yeah, I did notice that the production of the album because I listened to all three sort of music albums just to see that progression, and I noticed that, and
Hello and welcome back to the second half of Talk Musicals to Me with the incredible Susan Stroman. I'm having such a good time talking to you, Susan. Thank you again so much for joining us.
Yes, absolutely.
Diane sends you lots of love, by the way, Miss Pilkington.
Oh, yes, please send her my love.
She's one of my dearest friends. We were at college together.
Oh, she was amazing in Young Frankenstein. She was so funny.
She was fantastic. She's absolutely fantastic. So my first question of the second half is, if you were in charge of a school, which musical would you put on the school curriculum for everyone to get involved with?
Ooh, well, I think, school today, I think something like a version of Hamilton, teaching them Hamilton would be fantastic. I know the kids love that show, but Hamilton is very important. It's like one of the most important musicals to do. And I think teaching them all those lyrics, teaching them that story, teaching them about history and the camaraderie that it takes to pull that musical off. I think it would be teaching them Hamilton.
Oh, that's fantastic. I do love Hamilton. My husband was actually in it over here. He was our first King George.
Oh, fantastic. What a great part.
It's fabulous. And I saw it like 6 or 7 times. And every time I saw it, I learned something else. It has so much information in it.
Yeah.
And obviously, we're not very up on our American history over here, especially not that part of it, surprisingly. Why? Why would we not be up on it? I remember one of the interviews Mike did, I think it was for American breakfast television, and it was put on social media or something. And it was, how is Hamilton going down in the land of the bad guys? And we were like, what do you mean we're bad guys? I don't, King George to us was the king that went mad, and yes, we know obviously that we lost America and we shouldn't have had it in the first place, let's face it. But it's really interesting to learn about this history. But in America, is it something that's compulsory to learn about? Will every child grow up learning about the work that Hamilton did and obviously the Declaration of Independence? But is it something you all know?
No, and I'm ashamed to say that. I don't think history is taught as it should be taught and taught as it used to be taught. It's very different now. Even the show I created called the Scottsboro Boys, you would think that would be taught in the history classes, because those trials and the Scottsboro Boys certainly instigated civil rights, but that's not taught. So it's embarrassing to say that people are not up on their American history as they should be. And I think that's what's so great about Hamilton, for kids to try to understand what went down.
Yeah. And it's fascinating, isn't it, that it takes a political statement, really, in that, hey, guys, we're all immigrants. And this is why we're showing you why that's so important. And so it has so many different layers.
Yes, it does. I mean, there are lines in there about immigrants will get it done, and the place cheers. It's a genius piece of work. It really is.
When you watch something as a director choreographer, is it easy to switch that off and watch it and enjoy it? If it's something that good, can you sit back and relax?
Yes, I'm a good audience. I'm a very good audience. So I walk into a theater. The most exciting time ever is when a curtain rises and you don't know what you're going to see. And I'm so excited and hoping for the best. So there's an energy of hoping for the best. I hope this is great. I hope everybody does well. So there's an incredible excitement when a curtain goes up, which I absolutely love.
You're ready to be entertained.
Yeah, I'm a good audience, so I love to be told stories, and yes, and I know, of course, love talented people.
And when you saw Hamilton, because I know it started in a smaller space, did you see it there, or was it on Broadway that you saw it?
I saw it on Broadway the first time, but I heard that it was the rumblings about it.
What was the name of the place that not New World Stages?
Joseph Papp's Theater.
That's it. There's a book about it. I think all the cast got given a book about Joseph Papp Theatre. It's on my bookshelf somewhere. I shall get it out and read it. Fabulous. And I think with Hamilton in schools as well, like you say, the music's so intricate, the rhythms, and yet it's music that kids love. Anything that's going to get kids interested, because I do think having an experience of collaborating on something, whether you're front of house, backstage, in the lighting box, on stage, whatever it is you're doing, to feel that what you're doing is important to making something happen is essential, really. Everybody needs to know that they have a value.
Yes, absolutely. And it's wonderful that when the schools do that, when they switch it up and that someone's starring in the show, but then the next one they're working backstage. People should understand what it takes. There's no other art form like it that has that great collaboration of artists and designers. And it's a miracle a musical gets up. It's a miracle.
It really is.
It takes all those people to be on the same page. And that should be taught in school instead of just one focused thing. They should understand what it takes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Let me move on to my next question, which is, which forgotten musical would you like to see remounted?
Forgotten musical.
Or one you haven't seen for a long time?
I love the musical She Loves Me. I love that musical. I think it's like a perfect little gem of a musical. It's perfect writing and characters. So I would like to see She Loves Me again.
We had a lovely version of that about, I think maybe 10 years ago here in the Chocolate Factory. Have you worked there? You've done something there, right?
Yes, a long time ago.
Yeah.
There's something with Hal, yes.
So there's this teeny tiny space, and it was so lovely that it was this sort of lovely Christmassy musical, but it was in the middle of summer, and I'd never seen it before. When the big kind of Broadway revival was on in London with Ruthie, that was when I was still in college or something, so I wasn't able to go and get to see it. But I really love that piece, and everybody sings those songs in musical theatre class.
Yes.
You know, they all come up and they sing She Loves Me or Vanilla Ice Cream or A Trip to the Library, but it's rarely done.
Yeah, and it's like a perfect little musical. Everything, it's structured. It's got a great structure.
I want to say Sheldon Harnick.
Sheldon Harnick, yeah.
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 I've got a feeling he was there the night I watched it.
Oh, really?
He was tiny little man. I think he got up and took a bow, and everybody's like, oh my God, that's the guy who wrote this and Fiddler on the Roof. I was so starstruck. It was wonderful.
That's another perfect musical, Fiddler on the Roof.
Oh, isn't it?
That's a perfect musical. That structure is wonderful.
The structure of that opening number of that show.
Wonderful.
You learn so much about the culture of those people at that time, the traditions, the religion, the community, everything. Can't believe how much you learn in that short space space of time.
Yeah.
It actually blows my mind. It's a brilliant, brilliant show. I think underestimate. I think people know it so well that they just take it for granted now, but it's
I know. It's so good.
absolutely wonderful. Susan, is there a musical which inspired you to make a strong choice in your life?
Let's see. Well, yes, I was in college and I skipped the afternoon classes and went down. I graduated from the University of Delaware and I went downtown to see a show, a national tour called Seesaw.
Oh, yeah.
Had some very tall man in it called Tommy Tune.
Yeah.
And it had Michelle Lee. And I just thought this was for me. I had to find out how to be a part of this. And I'll never forget seeing that show. It had great music, Cy Coleman, and seeing Tommy Tune dance. And I think it had an effect on me to say in my mind, this is what I have to do. I have to do this show. I have to do these kinds of shows that make people happy.
Oh, that's wonderful. I don't know Seesaw at all. I feel like there's a song in there that might be something that I sing sometimes. Like maybe...
Nobody Does It Like Me.
Nobody Does It Like Me, yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, I think that's the one.
Yeah.
But Tommy Tune, I have a book up here about Broadway musicals. It's like a huge book. And he's in that a lot. He was like a big Broadway star, right?
Right.
How tall is he? He's got to be like 6'7".
Yeah, I think he is 6'6", actually. Yeah. Amazing. His work was wonderful.
Yeah.
And he was so, just to look at him, it's one of those, when you see him and watch him perform, you never forget it.
Yeah. I feel like there was a big show around him on Broadway. Was there like the Tommy Tune Follies or the Tommy Tune Show?
Well, he staged the Will Rogers Follies, which is a big show.
Ah, right. Okay. That's where I'm getting mixed up.
He was in a show with Twiggy, My One and Only.
Yes. That's another Gershwin one, right?
Yeah, they danced in the water, really unforgettable moments.
We had that over here. Tim Flavin and Janie Dee.
Oh, really?
They did that. It was in Chichester and then it came into London for a short run. And I remember the water splashing and everything. It was a lovely show. Really lovely show.
Yeah, that's a great show. Someone should bring that back.
Yeah. There you go. We'll add that to your previous answer. Yeah. When you came away from that, did you go, I'm going to work harder at my dancing, or I'm going to find out what were your next steps when you'd made that decision?
I came to New York to be a director choreographer. I know how fortunate I am that it worked out, but I knew I couldn't come to New York and just take over. I had to come as a song and dance scout because I could sing and dance and I was able to work, but it was always with a mind to get on the other side of the table. And I think it was seeing that show, the costumes and the sets and the music and the performers, that I thought I could put something together like that. I know that I could, and how much it would make me happy, how much it would make other people happy. So the show had a profound effect of me thinking I could do this. I think I could do this. But afterwards, I did come to New York. As I said, I sang and danced and was able to make a living, but it was always to get on the other side of the table. I always wanted to create for the theater.
And what was that trajectory? Were you dance captain and then associate, or?
I was in a show. It lasted 1 week on Broadway. It was called Musical Chairs. And I was assistant director on it. And I had a small part in it. And another person who was in that show was Scott Ellis.
Oh, yeah.
And we were lamenting how we wanted to be on the other side of the table. And Scott had done The Rink with Candor Nebb, and I had done Chicago with Candor Nebb. So we knew them a little bit. And we've thought, what if we went to them and asked them if we could take one of their shows and take it off Broadway and do a new version of it? And the idea, we were quite bold that these two young people would knock on Candor Nebb's door. But we did. We knocked on their door. We said, we have an idea for Flora the Red Menace to do it off Broadway. And they said yes. And we couldn't believe it. Then they said yes.
Wow.
And I think Scott and I made probably $400 for the whole summer. We starved to death, but everybody saw that show. How Prince saw it, Liza Minnelli saw it. We became best friends with Candor Nebb and then went on to create And the World Goes Round and Steel Pier. And after that, Scott Ellis and I never went back on stage again.
Yeah. I love that it wasn't a gradual thing. It was like, no, we're just going to go and do our own thing, small scale, and let's see what happens.
But I always tell young people that the worst thing that can happen is somebody says no, but you should go and ask the question. You should go and knock on the door. If there's somebody you want to meet or somebody you want to learn from, go and ask it. The worst thing that can happen is they say no and you go on to somebody else, but
not going to lose out on anything.
Yeah. I just was having dinner with John Candor the other night. he's 98 and he's unbelievable and still plays the piano and still is creating, and he's incredible.
That is absolutely wonderful to hear that.
Yeah.
You always sort of wonder what people do. You know, they've written all these shows. What are they doing now? But he's still working.
Still creating. Yeah.
Yeah. That's absolutely fabulous.
It's amazing.
My next question, talking about Candor and Ebb and all these great shows, what would you say is the secret to a great musical?
Well, if we knew what the formula was, we'd all be doing it. We don't know what the formula is.
Yeah.
Thing is, it's engaging an audience. I feel like theater today needs to have an important story or a profound story, but it has to be entertaining. Fred Ebb always said to me, if you don't make it entertaining, they won't listen. So it's now needs to be that combination, just because of where the world is going, to tell something important, but absolutely make it entertaining. An audience needs that. They need the release.
There's so many other distractions at the minute, aren't there?
Yeah.
With everything that's going on. You know, there are so many screens we can watch, so many channels, so many streamers, so many movies. So there's a lot of competition to get an audience to come and sit down or watch your show.
Yes.
So it has to have that vibrancy and attack.
Also an accessibility. I think an audience, if they can look up there and see someone up there that they relate to in some way, I think that's helpful too. It still has an accessibility to an audience of connecting. They need to connect.
Yeah, to engage that part of the audience that may see another musical and just feel alienated by it. That's important to grab them. Which musical feeds your soul? You can absolutely choose one of your own musicals here. If you're having a day where you want to be inspired or you want to feel creative, what musical do you put on? What show tune do you listen to? Is there something you go to go,
Well, yes, I think it would be an Astaire movie. It would be Top Hat, actually. It would be that movie. It just makes me so happy. And I think it would be a musical movie, and that would be Top Hat. That's the one that I just watch the routines. I listen to the music. It just makes me fly. It just makes me fly.
It's a beautiful movie, isn't it? And I feel like even though it's black and white, and that's not how we watch things anymore, it still has that, like we were saying earlier, the vibrancy, and the story is potentially described as flimsy, but like you say, the joy that comes out of it and the talent that you're watching on that stage is remarkable. Fred Astaire was a special guy. I feel like we don't really give him the credit he's due these days for bringing dance out, especially for a man, you know, to show the world how a man can dance. That's a big deal.
Yes. His influence is immeasurable, really, about what he did with movies, and then subsequently would have moved into the theater. And there's been no one like him since.
Yeah. Well, he started off as a Broadway guy, didn't he? You know, him and his sister would do all these shows.
Yeah.
There's quite a lot of shows that were sort of written as a vehicle for him and his sister.
Yes.
So you get two sets of romantic leads, because obviously they couldn't be romantic leads together. So I'd be interested to sort of find out more about those, really. Those Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers movies are a big part of my life. Shall We Dance?
Yes, Shall We Dance?
Top Hat, The Gay Divorce, Carefree.
Oh, Carefree, yeah.
I love Carefree with that amazing dream sequence. And
yes.
And I do think Ginger Rogers is an incredible comedian.
Yes.
She's a wonderful actress and dancer and singer, but her comedy timing, if I'm trying to find a laugh in a line, I think, how would Ginger Rogers say this line?
Yes, absolutely. I got to meet her, actually. I never met Fred Astaire, but I got to meet Ginger Rogers. We were doing Crazy for You in Los Angeles, the national tour, after the show was on Broadway. And she came to see it, and she was in a wheelchair, and she loved the show. But when I went backstage to meet her, you know, they said, this is Susan Stroman, and she just put her arms out from the chair, and I went and hugged her, and she just sobbed in my arms. She sobbed and sobbed. I'll never forget it. I think she felt that she could do that, you know, that she could do that dance. That was the kind of dance that she could do. And she was seeing something that reminded her of her dancing youth.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Oh, God, you got me so teary now to think about that. Because that's how I felt watching Crazy for You. I felt like I was watching a live Astaire and Rogers movie in front of me, and the impact that had. And obviously the music, a lot of it is music that, like Shall We Dance, obviously they dance to that, and it's all music magic of that period and the storytelling through the dance that I think absolutely happens in those movies. Like, you know, I say the storytelling is flimsy, but you understand where the story is going by following the dance routines. They dance on roller skates, for crying out loud.
I know.
Before Starlight Express.
Yes. And you know, nothing's like falling in love in someone's arms when they dance.
Yeah.
And people don't dance together like that anymore. But you know, in my day in high school, if you danced in a boy's arms, yeah, that was it. You were going out with him. There's something about dancing in someone's arms that makes you fall in love.
I do love that it's become a kind of thing. I don't know if it's the same over in the States, but over here, people are starting to get their first dances at their weddings choreographed, and they learn them.
Oh, yes. Yes, of course.
And that's a really lovely thing, I think.
As a matter of fact, I did John Wyman's daughter's first dance with the father.
Oh, that's adorable.
John Wyman and his daughter. I put that together. Yeah.
Oh, that's so wonderful.
Yeah, they came over here to my office and we worked on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. Now, I'm looking at your office. There is room to dance in your office, which I am thrilled by.
There is. Yeah.
Because I can just imagine what stuff goes on in there. That's absolutely brilliant.
Oh, yeah. It's all created. Everything's created here in this office.
Thank you so much for giving us your time today.
Absolutely.
Susan, it means so much to me to talk to you. You're actually the first person I've interviewed that I haven't met properly.
Oh,
This was quite nerve-wracking for me because everybody else I have a connection with. I've really enjoyed talking to you and hearing your story.
oh, well, hopefully we'll meet each other at some point. You have
I
to come
hope
see
so.
Little Dancer at the Drury Lane.
Yeah, I absolutely will.
Yes. Yeah.
So tell me about that. That's what's happening next for you. You're coming over here.
Yes, we're coming over to do a concert version of Lynn Ahrens and Stephen Flaherty's Little Dancer. July 27th at the Drury Lane, one night only. They're giving me 2.5 weeks, thank goodness. And I have an all British cast, except for I have an incredible ballerina here from New York City Ballet called Tyler Peck.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to be a fantastic evening. It's just the most beautiful piece. And it's based on Degas' Little Dancer sculpture.
Lovely. I think you have my friend Laura Pitt-Pulford in that with you.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
She's a class act, so I will be along to see that.
Fantastic.
And I look forward to having you back on British land, British soil.
Yes, I can't wait.
Thank you so much, Susan.
Well, thank you for everything.
Thank you.
All the best to you. All the best.
You got me so teary, that Ginger Rogers story. Thank you so much for listening today. This has been Talk Musicals to Me for the Bloop Network. My fabulous producer is Aaron Ware, and the music you heard is from the pen of the sublime Tom Self. If you get a moment, please subscribe or follow and rate the podcast by clicking the stars below on the podcast page. It takes about 2 seconds to do, and it will really help the podcast and its future life and would make us massively, eternally, enormously grateful. In the meantime, another huge thanks for tuning in, and please do so again next time to see who will be next up to Talk Musicals to Me.